Doing email marketing can be productive and create return in dollar and in loyalty at one property or at 10,000 properties.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the VRNation Station podcast, the podcast that is in the soul of the short-term rental industry. Today, I have a friend of mine here who's visiting, Brenton Greer, and I might even just butchered your name, buddy. I'm actually going to let you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about it, because I've been super excited about this episode because I am a struggling web business development guy who absolutely has been just itching at the bit to try and ask you some questions. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the crowd.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Brenton Greer. I'm the Director of Growth at Realtek Webmasters. Not familiar with Realtek. We do one major thing, and that's drive direct bookings. We do it with direct booking websites, marketing, and unmatched support in our industry. I've been with the company about 6 years, and I started on the marketing side, helping with clients. And kind of throughout my career with Realtek, my number one objective has been to work with property managers, understand what's going right in their business, what's going wrong in their business from like a digital marketing and website standpoint, and kind of help fill in those gaps and try to make sure that we get some solutions that provide high return, but also make sense for your individual business.
Kick ass. So here's the fun part, everybody, that people don't really get. So Britt, I listened to Britt talk. I was at Jen Boyle's Direct Booking Summit, and I listened to Britt talk, and I think he underplays what he actually can do for a property management company and what Realtek can actually do for property managers. I've been in this industry probably about the same amount of time as you, Britt, and honestly, I have a lot of tongue grinding when I think of my web situation and some of the hurdles, because I had to reboot and relaunch a website for Cabino, and it was I'm not going to say horribly painful, because I think my project manager did a great job. My team did a great job. We got it turned around. But I tell you, where I saw things that were hindering us, they still do today, because they're rule driven. So I think it's really interesting. But before we even go down that part, so before you had joined Realtek, you were doing your own stuff. Like, were you just a web consultant, or what were you doing previous to Realtek?
No, actually, previous to Realtek, I was working in the corporate world. I was working for FedEx office, and a lot of my educational background is in design. It's in marketing, and so I took a job with Realtek from outside the industry just to utilize my skill set. And fortunately, it aligned where we had a great company with a really good product built on the right foundations, but was relatively to how long Realtek's been around, kind of in its infancy in terms of really going to market with it and putting our best foot forward. So I was just naturally a good fit for that. And through the process, I've learned a ton about the vacation rental space, a ton about direct bookings, and even more about marketing, which has been great.
Nice. And you're the Director of Growth. Is that right?
Yep.
So I haven't heard that title before. Tell me about it. What is that?
Yeah. So, my job with Realtek really is in myriad ways to try to take Realtek to market and grow our client base, grow our visibility in the industry. So I do all of our B2B marketing. I work with our sales team really, really closely. I manage our partnerships, our branding, anything that is going to be at the forefront of what somebody sees when they're first finding out about Realtek, and, ultimately making sure that more and more people do find out about Realtek. I'm an evangelist of sorts, I guess.
That's okay. No, that's good. That's good. We need more of those. Interestingly enough, so I'm going to pivot our conversation, because when I was at the Direct Booking Summit for Jen, I learned a ton. There are a lot of really great speakers there too. But one of the things that I thought was interesting, as we start talking about the book direct movement and being a part of business development for a property management company, is just simply the percentages, right? So right now, I think we boast around a 35 to 40% direct booking rate for Cabino.
Great.
I think it could be better. I know I just had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. He's in California, and he's at 52%, right? Maybe talk a little bit about book direct and why this is a focal point for Realtek.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think the thing that is so important about direct bookings. Everyone likes to talk about the fees you save and, decreasing OTA reliance. And I could talk all day about how that is important and such a big kind of segment of what a property manager should be focused on is really owning their guest, owning the experience all the way, and getting the long-term effects of having provided a great experience. You provide a great experience, and there's some companies out there. We'll use the name Airbnb, kind of continuously clenching down on your ability to keep that guest and to advertise that experience that they had with you. But on the flip side to that, there's so much that can be done in terms of the remarketing and generating
I might have lost your
acquisition booking.
There goes.
If you get somebody into your ecosystem, they find out about you through a variety of channels. You maintain operational excellence. They have a great stay. They're excited. There's so many things you can do with that. You can use the testimonial, certainly. But more importantly, you can remarket to them through email. You can use it to inform your paid ad strategy. And so that you're able to not only get them back in year after year, become their go-to vacation provider, but also you're going to get word of mouth and you're going to be able to get a lot of long-lasting return out of that experience.
Right. No, excellent. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. And I think it's interesting, given your background, right, and given what you're doing as the director of growth at Realtek, the part that I always struggled with, and of course, everybody who's been listening to my podcast knows I'm a huge whiner. Sorry. Yeah. But here's the point, right? Here's the point.
Truth is truth.
Yeah, truth is truth, right? Like I burned through 4 marketing companies in the last 2 years, right? And each individual company, good dudes, appreciated them, right? But they only did one certain segment, and there was no tie together. And I think the person that let's just say every time I brought a new person on, they would point out how the other one didn't do their job. And I'm like, that was the one consistency across the board. The other guy didn't do what he's supposed to do. This is what you got to do now, right? And then it wouldn't work out, and the same person would say the same thing. So how do you avoid, the best way I was always thinking about is like when you have a smaller company, and if maybe they don't have a business development role, and it comes to marketing, right? It's almost like a fractional CFO or CMO role, right? Like, how do you balance that when you work with Realtek and you're trying to balance the usages for this property managers?
Yeah. So the great thing about working with Realtek and really our approach is that we can work with anybody from a single owner running the whole company themselves, burning the midnight oil, and we can go and generate marketing for them. Or we can work with, Long and Foster with 3,500 rentals. That's a client of ours, and we do marketing for them as well. So we can really scale with the business. I think what allows us to do that is some of kind of the key tenets of the way that our services work, which is we invest deeply in transparency, not only about the results, but also about the strategy, what's working, what's not working, how we're going to change it. And in a monthly meeting, we're going to convey all that, but also present the return in actual dollar for dollar, accounting for your individual commission, making sure that it is your actual net return. And so I think what I recommend to people is if you're going to work with somebody for your marketing, make sure you're going to work with somebody who wants you to be educated about what they're doing for you, wants you to be educated about if it's working, and wants you to be educated about if it's not working, what they're doing to fix it. Because you're paying them a lot of money. It needs to be bringing dollars in, but it needs to be giving you peace of mind as well.
Right. No, and that is also the other consistency is everybody hired. When you said, "Hey, what's my ROAS at this month?" They're like, we can't really calculate that. It's like,
yeah.
What?
Every report we send out has a return for every single service.
I love it. That's perfect, man. That's perfect. So I'll pivot again a little bit, and let's talk about the book direct movement itself, right? So when I started back in the day, 4 years ago, right? So I started post-pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And pre-pandemic, I mean, I've been using vacation rentals as a guest for 20 years. So, I mean, I was on the original VRBO site that looked like Craigslist, renting a place to stay with my family back in the day, right? And times have changed. So when I think of that and I'm going, man, book direct, because I'm located in Wisconsin. So when I look at some of the property managers in this area, it's fairly scant, right? They don't have a web presence. They don't have they are solely dependent on Airbnb and VRBO. So how do you overcome that hurdle from a direct booking perspective, right? So you guys are building these websites for property managers. How do you change that traveler behavior to really focus on looking direct?
That's a really fair question, and I think the key to answering that question is in shifting the perspective about traveler behavior. I think I know in a lot of conversations I've had with people and trying to bring them on to our websites and marketing, or even just consult them about if they should be investing in direct bookings, I hear a lot of skepticism that people are out there really looking to book direct. I hear skepticism that they have any chance because everyone's going to go to an OTA. So why are they actually looking? The fascinating thing now is if you spend much time looking at search volume and understanding search marketing, you understand that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people searching for most destinations month in and month out. And there is a competitive but attainable marketplace in Google and now in chatbots where there is certainly demand for vacation rentals in your destination, and there are people who are capitalizing on it. And the fortunate thing is that while especially with SEO, it is a compounding benefit to investing in it, it is not unattainable. It is an accessible marketplace for people where they can get a higher return on the bookings that they receive. They can own their guests better. And it's not rocket science. You just have to work with people who specialize in it and have your back and are going to be true partners and show you what they're doing to fix it.
Got it. And that makes sense. Here's the part. This is a loaded question. You're just like, Jamie, you're supposed to be giving me easy questions here.
No, bring it on.
This is where I struggle, right? So I am one of those few people that talk with my VRBO and my Airbnb and my Expedia reps monthly, if not every other month.
Good,
and working. Right. But the hard part is I've been building software for 25 years. So right. When I hear what they're asking me, I see the behavior of the OTA and I'm like, there's a lot of hidden meaning here, what they're saying. There's a lot of doublespeak. So when I start to probe a little bit, what I find is there's an inherent penalty built into, I know Airbnb specifically, because they don't even hide it. But when it comes to VRBO, it's also heading that way, where all of a sudden, if you're booking directly, how do you counter the fact that they start to stop, putting your property into the algorithm? Like is it like an all or nothing switch, or is there a way to play both sides of the fence?
I think you absolutely can play both sides of the fence. OTAs are not going to stop looking to maintain as much control over the reservations and the potential guests as they can. But so long as we're operating in the economy that we are right now, where people have free will to talk to other people, have free will to communicate with others, I think that it's important to balance both. We're not looking to get people on 100% direct bookings. We're looking to get people at 50, 60, 70% direct bookings, because I'll give a quick shout out to my friend Michelle Marquis. She made a great point in a conversation recently where she said, the number one thing that I like to tell people who say you should go completely OTA free is, are you completely sold out? If you look at your calendar, is it block for block every single day? If it's not, even if you're doing a ton of direct bookings and you're being really successful, there's an opportunity to go get it. And I think that, I can't think of a particular business that we work with. We work with several market leaders, and all of them are utilizing OTA in some capacity to generate reservations for their company. I haven't seen one of them who's saying my direct bookings are doing really, really well, but my OTAs, my Airbnb bookings are falling off. It's just about understanding the balance, prioritizing where you want to put resources into, and understanding that you can generate reservations through both. And then I would also put out, just because I know that it's a point of concern, as we're further restricting the ability for an Airbnb guest to be able to contact you. There's word of temporary phone numbers and all these things. There is methodology you can put into your guest communications where you can circumvent that. You just have to be a little creative and work with people who specialize in it.
Makes sense. So here's the loaded question for you, right? So a vacation rental website has to do two things, right? So it's got to look good, right? It's got to be professional, look good, and it's got to convert sales. So when you think of like the property managers, right? And I know a lot of my friends that are listening, bless your hearts. By the way, thank you if you like, subscribe, please follow, share with your friends, especially at this point because this is why you're listening. So if these property managers have their site up and running, what's the most common DIY website fail that you see?
Most common DIY fail that I see. That is a good question. Um, there's a lot. There's a lot of things that people can do independently themselves and be successful with it. But I think that really what it comes down is to building a strong foundation for investing in direct bookings and investing in bookings through your website as your primary driver of success. I see a lot of people who see it as an operational checkbox. We'll call people and we'll say, hey, we're talking to people about their direct booking website and how we think we can improve it and improve their web presence. And they'll go, I have a direct booking website. And you pull it up and you land and it says the vacation rental company's name and it has their properties listed and it has a search bar that goes into a search with some basic functionality. And yeah, that's great. You're checking that box someone can book directly through you. But with so much competition in your market and destination to destination competition for the best vacation experiences, you really have to wow somebody. It's so difficult to get somebody to enter your site directly. So you have to take into account that if you're able to get them there by chance without having a blog and investing in search visibility, the likelihood that they convert simply because they see a property and go, yep, I like the look of that house. I'm going to pay these people thousands of dollars to spend my well-earned money and my well-earned time on a vacation. It goes far beyond the picture of a house. It goes around the experience. And so professional sites should be invested in terms of conveying your brand values, conveying your successes. And I think really, really importantly, something that's overlooked a lot that I like to tell people about is the experience of learning about your company and finding the right property and getting the assistance that you need in the site is really, that's the first impression that someone gets of what kind of company you're running. So if your approach to marketing your rentals is here's the pictures of my properties and here's the button to inquire with us about booking, you're not really showing a very hands-on, dedicated, service-driven experience, even if that's what they're going to get when they stay. So you got to be full bore with the site. You got to really sell the experience. You got to sell the level of quality. And with robust booking tools in the search funnel that really make it easy to find things, that's going to help a ton. That's going to reflect a consultative and hospitable experience. And then I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I'll tack one more thing on here, which is now, obviously AI is the hot button topic for everyone for good reason. I recently did a presentation at the DARM conference about AI search marketing. And one stat I shared there is that a recent study shows about 80% of travelers are expecting and would like AI assistance in their booking experience. And so working with somebody who's going to be able to give you a chat agent, a natural language search, something that can provide that is going to be a huge leg up for people. So again, if you've just got properties in a search, you're being outgunned by a large margin at this point. So you got to invest in it to stay competitive.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point you bring up, especially about the AI, like the chatbots. Even still, the hard part is that, if you're an established property manager, right, and you've got say 65, 70 properties, we're kind of in our path with our web provider, with our actual, I won't say names, but what I'm saying is, like, I can't, to put a chat bot or something in there to help people with natural language searching, they don't have the functionality to do it. And it's like, and that's a tough part, right? That's where you're going, well, wait a minute, how do you guys not have this functionality? I could hire Realtek and they could build me a site like this. Because of how they templated out what they deliver, they don't have it. You have to either pay a third party to do it, or you just don't have that option. So it's a very good point that you bring as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
One thing I was just going to say though, like,
yeah, go ahead.
So when you talk to folks, right, and this is the one thing that always boggles my mind. And folks, if this is you, please don't do this. Don't build your own website and then link Airbnb to it. You're literally double
Yeah,
paying for your marketing. You're literally
there's an
double
easy one.
paying for Airbnb. So if you say, here's my properties, go to Airbnb and book it, you are now accepting the marketing expense and paying them even more, 15% last time I checked, to book that property. So please don't do that.
Yeah, that should have been my answer for the number one fail is having a direct
It's
booking site.
just, it's
It
just
takes people
like,
out of your direct booking funnel. Yeah, there's a softball that I missed, but yeah, no, absolutely. Everything as
it's
soon as
funny
someone
though.
enters your site should be about generating your company money
Right. And it's
only.
not funny, So again, I'm in Wisconsin, right? So if you're ever in Wisconsin and you're looking for a place, a vacation, there's two major places that pop up, even though the state of Wisconsin is marvelous and there's so many cool things about the state. But like Door County, which a lot of people already know, or Lake Geneva, which is down by Milwaukee, there are only like a handful of property managers that actually have a direct booking site that you can book through their PMS system versus going in and linking to an Airbnb link. Everybody else has got their Airbnb links on their websites. And I'm just like, guys, you don't do that. You're
Yeah, I
wasting so
mean,
much money.
well, and like I feel like I mean, I've encountered tons and tons and tons of companies that have really large inventories that book exclusively through like Airbnb and VRBO. And so like it's possible to be successful. I'm not saying it's not, but I do find it crazy to think about what those owner acquisition conversations are like. Yeah, we'll manage your property. We're going to put it on the same platform as everyone else. We've got some ideas about how we think we can help it book well. We're generating returns instead of saying, yep, we have you in Airbnb. You're not going to get missed over, but we're also driving 10,000 sessions a month into our website. We convert at, 5% on all those. We're generating X ROI direct bookings for all of our properties. And you can find us in the top 5 search rankings across these top keywords that generate, you know, let's call it 15,000 monthly searches. We're putting you everywhere that people are looking.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, I completely understand it. There's a very common tale that I find when I talk with people that are, sitting around the 10 to 15 property mark, because that's the most pain from what
Yep.
I'm hearing. Is the most pain is 10 to 15. And the reason is because when you're hitting 8, 9, it's stressful. When you hit 12, 13, all of a sudden you're just like, man, I don't have enough time in the day to do everything I need to do. And that's your first scaling point, right? It's not your first, it's actually the next scaling point after maybe 3, right? If you're doing 3 properties, you could probably do everything yourself. Like maybe you're out doing price changes, maybe you're doing the cleaning, maybe you're doing the maintenance. But man, when you hit that next point, that's when that website piece really comes in, is between 3 and 10. And when you get somebody like that and they say, hey, Britt, I got this business I'm starting to grow. What are your first steps when you go and work with that client? Like, what do you do with them?
Yeah. So, you make a good point about the importance of that scaling point, right? Because all of a sudden you've got a lot of mouths to feed and you have more operational hamstrings than ever, or at least, hoops
It
to jump
feels,
through to make,
uh,
I'm sure it does. I've never been a property manager. Kudos to property managers. I don't know how you do it. But I think that the key for us is going to be let's take some important things off your plate and do it in a way that provides a positive return and a positive experience for you. Our job is to make people's lives easier, not harder. So come work with us because for one monthly fee, we're going to cover everything on the website side, which means you 24/7 have a high functioning website that is working, that puts your best foot forward. And if something's going wrong, we're going to get it resolved immediately. And you're always going to be able to get ahead of us. And then on the marketing side, I know especially, that 10, 15 mark, there's a lot of places you're considering putting budget in. There's operational tools, there's channel management, you're looking at dynamic pricing. I'm sure there's a ton of operational costs that even go over my head that they're there. But make sure that if you're gonna pay for marketing, don't skimp on marketing. Don't find the cheapest solution to do marketing. Don't burn your valuable time being an expert property manager on YouTube learning how to market. Pay somebody who is going to provide you real results, show you the results, and like I said, to kind of start off the conversation today, is really invested in you understanding what they're doing for you There's nothing wrong with paying someone and learning what they're doing. And then eventually in time, if you want to take that part in house, you want to bring somebody on, you have the expertise, uh, but get a return on your time and your money. And in the direct booking and vacation rental world, so much of that is about actually generating traction and visibility that converts.
Yeah.
Versus
so
saving money up front.
That's an interesting point. And I guess I'm going to take this a little different way. So I know a guy, right? I'm not naming names. I know a guy, and no, it's me. I'm that guy. But it's one of those where, here's my struggle, right? I brought this to Jen when Jen and I were talking on our podcast at one point. She kind of laughed me out of the room because I said, well, do you do listing management? And she's like, I don't do listings. I don't mess with the OTAs. And I said, okay, fair enough. She gave me a reasoning, and a reason was sound.
Yeah.
But, here I am. I'm in the middle of this where, I have a property management system, and my property management system, when we build our listings, in the property management system, and then it gets pushed to our website, and then it gets pushed to the OTAs. And, the question that I always kind of run into is I'm going, man, the presentation layer between your website, VRBO, Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia, and I don't even want to go down the path with Expedia at this moment. I'll go on for an hour. But when you look at it and as you're going through the presentation layers, do you guys work with the actual property management system, like how to build that out? Or is it more just focused on the web design and getting the web design in a convertible fashion?
Yeah. So on the web design side, yeah, certainly our biggest emphasis for your individual property listing pages is going to be on the output of it and putting really fantastic tools in the property detail page that make that experience easier. Our new property page release that all of our direct clients just got is going to take all of your reviews and it'll synthesize them into an AIO review. A sticky calendar, key amenities, things that are going to help actually take your information and pass it in a really presentable way. That's certainly important. That's our charge as your website company. But we're also going to try to increase the efficacy of those in a couple ways, especially for our marketing clients where we're having content conversations. We can consult on what's going to be the most effective in terms of how to lay out your information. We could be consultative about increasing the keyword capacity and the semantic richness of those so that it is absorbable by Google crawlers for SEO, so that it is absorbable by your OpenAI crawlers to present them in ChatGPT and other chatbots. But one thing that we're doing that I think really, really helps, and I know this is a little bit off, so I don't want to be too salesy here, but I do want to push this out here, is that one tool that we've recently launched that really helps the property manager optimize their own listings and better understand how they're performing. We built and launched last year an AI chatbot for the property detail page. It does not go out and hit the whole internet for answers. It allows the guest to ask questions about the individual property they're looking at and get clarity about the amenities, the location, and it pulls exclusively from your PMS software and your listing information. What's great about that is, like you said, people are lazy. So it's easy to just go in and say, hey, does this have a pool? How many beds are in each bedroom? Are there linens provided, whatever it is, and get the easy answers you want. But the real gold in that is that we push a report to the back end that says, here's what people ask about most. Here's the properties that they asked questions about most. Here's the things that people are looking for. They're not getting the answers most commonly. So you can.
Now, is that like is that custom out of analytics? Like, how are you getting out of GA, or how are you getting that information?
The reporting?
Yeah.
We're housing all of those inquiries on the back end and then pushing them into a report in your WordPress dashboard. So
got it. Okay, so you're pulling
people are asking these questions and they don't have an answer, which means you can go and optimize your listings and make them higher converting by delivering on the simple thing, answering people's questions about what makes it the perfect property for them.
Damn. You just hit the nail on the head, but that's my biggest problem. That literally is my biggest problem right now, is when I look at, I've got a lot of problems, and it's not just related to work. No, I'm just kidding. But it's one of those where it's like, The thing that I run, I got a lot of problems. Look at me. No, but the thing is like when you look at it, that's where I'm like, I got some, I look at my Google Analytics, and of course I had to go back and learn like Google Analytics. I mean, if anybody else wants to go down a bunny hole, man, go figure out your Google Analytics, Google Ads, and pay per click. Well, I tell you could set aside a good 2 months. Yeah, you or pay somebody, but if you learn it, dude, set aside a good 2-3 months of 8 hours a day trying to figure it out because it is tough.
Yeah.
But trying to go through it, figure it out. I still don't know. From one, it's funny. I'll have one property that I'll look at and I'll say visually, I'll look at the listing and I'll go, man, that is a phenomenal. It's a beautiful property. The amenities are laid out. Like it is clearly a bestseller, top luxury property in our area. And then I'll look at a cabin that's called, oh man, what the heck was it? It was called the Tiny House. And the Tiny House had like 10 times the amount of hits online as this beautiful luxury cabin because of the term tiny house. It took us forever to figure that out. And we just couldn't, like, why are so many people like obsessed with this thing? And it's like, they're not. They're just searching tiny house and it happens to pull when they pull it up, which gives us these hits. It doesn't help me at all in regards to advertising. It doesn't help me at all in regards to marketing the properties because it's just, it's just a keyword that happens to tie in. So, those are the things I think people don't wrap their head around when you talk about, what the services are that you guys bring. Let me just tell you the pain that you're solving. So people listen, the pain that is being solved by hiring Realtech is you don't have to head scratch wondering why a property is doing something and another one's not. They can help you. They can look at it and say, well, this is why. And it actually leads me to another question because you had brought up AI chatbots. And of course, I'm an AI dork. I went off the deep end. I'm getting certified at MIT for agentic AI, and like I love it. I think it's a great. I honestly think it's a great thing to do, right? There's upsides and downsides. Akshay and I kind of went off the hook on our last podcast talking about AI. But the one thing that I think, and I'm just going to state this question as much as I can, right? There is so much confusion in regards to artificial intelligence and how it's going to change search patterns for the consumer. And everybody just immediately jumps into ChatGPT. And it's like, what people don't understand is ChatGPT is a large language model. I think terminology and verbiage around AI is probably the most confusing thing because people just can't wrap their head around it yet.
Yeah.
But, if for all intents and purposes, the large language model is just the brain. It's just the brain, right? It's just the thing that thinks. There's all sorts of other little tentacles that reach out of the brain that actually pass information back and forth. Now, the question is, what do you know about the brain? ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, doesn't really matter what it is, Grok. What do you know about the brain and how to manipulate your website so that it does pop up in these chat searches?
Man, just did a big session about this at DARM, so I'm locked and loaded on this one. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I'm going to struggle to really oversimplify it. The most important thing to understand with ranking for AI and the way that people use it, there's chatbots, and then there's AI overview, and Google are kind of two of the primary places that people are interacting. You have to, understand the behavior of people in those and how it applies to our industry specifically. And I think that what people really have to know to have some peace of mind right now is that to optimize your website and your content to be shown in AI, the secret is doing the things you've been doing for SEO with some slight tweaks. The things that ChatGPT really, really cares about, or that Google AI overviews really, really care about, are going to be simple things like accuracy, human tone, semantic richness. Are you talking a lot about things that show you have expertise in something? When you think about it, an LLM, its job is to take a human question and respond to it with a human answer. The way that it's doing that is it's going and running a lot of statistical analysis that they've kind of turned words into data and looking for things that appear relevant. And if this sounds familiar, it's because it's very similar to SEO in essence. And so what's really, really important to do is not only have a lot of accurate information on your site that's relevant to something and have structural hierarchy that leads a crawler, whether it be Google or AI, through the content. But most importantly with AI, the big tweak is that it's not about long form content. It's not about the most content. It's about making it really easy for a computer system that's doing some really complex calculations to find the answer to the question. So, question based headings, bulleted lists that really distill down the point of your content, but then still having an elaborative blog article after or preceding that bulleted list that expands on that so that you have the SEO relevance and the quality and bulk of content that's going to help you right there.
So let me break that down, because I understood everything you just said, but I think for my friends online, they might have lost you a little bit, because when we start talking about, let's talk about actionability, right? So here's the actionability, folks. And if you're not quite sure what Britt's saying, the reality is this: when you're building out your site, whether you're paying somebody or whether you're doing it yourself, there is a framework that's relevant. And it has to do with things like the About Us page. If you have an About Us page that is very scant and it doesn't talk about any kind of authority, how long you've been in business, who you are, who runs the company, why people should pick you, AI is going to skip you. It's going to skip you. It's not going to see you as relevant. And it can start with About Us. It could talk about the badges on the bottom of your homepage. I learned this with Cabino. I sat there, I searched in every large language model, Complexity, Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok, and I'm like, and I'd set it right in my area. Who are the top property managers in this region? And our name wasn't popping up, even though we are. And I'm going, why is that? So then I just asked the question to the chat search, and I said, why aren't you finding this? And it laid out, it says, well, these other guys have trust badges. You don't have any trust badges. And of course, I'm like, really?
Yeah. Other companies are telling the chatbot that they are the best, and so the chatbot's
listening. And it's going to believe you. It's going to like, there's no people in it. You could be a brand new right now. This is the downside of AI, folks. And as much as I try to pump it up, there's definitely the hallucination aspect of AI, which is a little bit of a different animal, but essentially it believes what's out there. So when you go look and all of a sudden you've got a brand new company who spun up and they've got 7 badges that say they're the best, they're the number one, the people's choice, you can make the badges up, they don't have to be real. AI is going to find those and it's going to present it as real. So that's why having an experienced person who's building your website that can look at that and go, there's a balance between hypothetical, hopeful, and outright lack of integrity, right? Where somebody's going to say, look, you can say this on your site. It's going to help you boost your rankings on AI, because Britt, you're 100% on, man. I mean, Google searches are just dropping off the map. I was in a class the other day and it was talking about usage of AI from last summer to now. Last summer, they count everything in tokens. And at one point in time, it was at 4 million tokens at the beginning of the summer. That means that's people who are searching ChatGPT. That's a token. The response is a token count, 4 million tokens. By the end of this year, there was like 4 trillion tokens. That's how much people are using AI. It's not even like 100. It's like 4,000 or 40,000% growth. Don't let it slip, people. If you're getting your sites worked on, if you're not, schedule time. Talk to Britt. Talk to people who know what they're doing, and get your site updated for AI search, because it's coming. It's already here, and you'll be losing out for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be forward thinking. And the nice thing is, circling back to what I was saying, there's not some huge rocket science where you have to completely tear down what you've done or abandon what you were planning to do. It's about making certain tweaks. It's about understanding what's going to position you best for the 2 search markets, regular traditional SEO and chat. I do want to add, again, a little bit of peace of mind and a little bit of maybe, what's the phrase I'm looking for here? I want to kind of disintegrate some of the panic here, because there's also some great data that supports that traditional SEO is still important, that the market as we know it has not completely changed, and that it's about approaching both SEO and AI in sort of a unified way. So the first data point that I think is really important to know is, to your point, 35% decrease on number one SEO results since Google started pushing the AI overview at the top, right? That's a stat that I hear quoted a lot. It is an accurate stat, and to some degree, it is an alarming stat. It's really important to understand, though, that an abundance of those come down to zero-click searches, where someone is typing in, what temperature does water boil at? It's 212 degrees. You don't need a body of content to answer that question. So AI can pop in and answer that question. They don't need to click into something for an expansive answer. Vacation rentals are not right now, will not be in 20 years, a zero-click solution, if you ask me. People are always going to want some human touch. I think it's also really important for people to be aware that in August of 2025, which, is some time ago, Google monthly visits exceeded ChatGPT by about, what's that math there, 78 billion monthly visits. GPT is going to gain ground. It's not going to go away. But right now, there is still a huge amount of opportunity there. And then the last thing that I would tack on, and this is like my favorite stat that I learned through this whole process, because it totally dissuaded the panic that we were starting to feel in terms of like, we've got to completely rethink the way we approach search marketing. In August of 2025, 95% of people who went and used ChatGPT or another AI chatbot in their searching broadly across all industries then turned around and went to Google to corroborate, to do further research, to look into the company.
Right.
If you type in who's got the best vacation rentals in this market, it's going to give you 4 options. You're probably going to go look into those 4 options. And if you get served some ads and some organic results for some other companies, you might look at those too. It is not the end all be all. It is just a recommendation system at this point still.
Yeah, it's funny. The where I've seen the biggest change, the reason I've kind of gone down this path is working with scouted.com and looking at different activities that, we're trying to somehow, we've built the tool where Scouted can work back with the property manager as well. And how that, because what people are doing is they're looking for things to do in an area before they're looking for a place to stay. So as an example, so we're in Idaho, right? So they go on and they'll go onto Google. And what people don't realize is that when we say Google and they do a search in Google, AI is the first thing that pops up, right? Because they've already integrated Gemini. So it doubles the hits on Google and makes it look like we're still standing here, swinging, right? But the reality is like that, because I just use my own personal bias because I don't even remember the last time I actually looked at Google and thumbed through the results, right? I actually just type it in and whatever comes back, that's where I end it because I just don't want to waste my time, especially mobilely, but I digress. So the concept is like, if you focus some of your marketing keywords around activities, like, hey, I want to go whitewater rafting in Yellowstone, right? We have multiple properties that are right near the drop-off points and the pickup points for these Yellowstone rafting tours. And so it's like, when we look at it, you're going, hey, when I do my marketing, these are kind of some of the double keywords and some of the things we're looking at, so that when somebody does an AI search for whitewater rafting, now I can tie back my results for my property management company as well. So it's really interesting. It's really, really interesting world to go into. But here's the one thing that it was interesting to me, and it's going to be more interesting to our listeners as well, right? So we talked about like the pivot point, like, hey, you need to get a direct booking site up and running. Let's talk about the marketing difference when you have maybe 10 or 50 or 500 homes. Like, what is Realtek? How do you guys piece that out, and what do you do differently for a smaller, middle, larger property manager?
Yeah, so really what it's going to come down to is going to be the scale of the services that we're doing across the board and sort of where we put the emphasis. So I'll break that down to like a really, really simple comparison. If we've got a small manager, they've got 10 properties in the market, they haven't done a lot of that area info blog content, like you're kind of talking about, that's an important piece of it. That's going to get them some rankings. They don't have a lot of SEO basis. While sometimes people maybe take a second and blink at us, we encourage them to look at paid search, because what you can do is you can be pay to play and you can get up at the top of those really, really high volume search inquiries that people are putting in and present up at the top of the page and create some visibility, some traffic, and some conversions for your site while you're working on that SEO. ranking. On the SEO side, what we do is for every client, if you come on with us for SEO in your market, we're not just going to go look up, here's the list of the top 10 keywords and put them all over your site. That's reckless. It's better than nothing, but it's reckless, right? And I think that I've worked with some people out in the world who think that that is SEO in its highest form. What we're going to do is we're going to look into the data behind the individual search terms in your market in comparison to your inventory. If you have pet friendly, if you have beachfront, if you have duplexes, if you have proximity to local attractions. And we're going to do the research around those keywords. Pet friendly rentals in Anna Maria Island, but also what are the best Anna Maria Island vacation rentals for dog owners, things of that nature where you have different variations because they're going to have different search volume, but we're going to be able to look and see what the actual difficulty is. And we're going to put our keyword strategy in what I like to call kind of building the ladder as you climb it. We're going to consistently insert some of those really, really high level terms like Anna Maria vacation rentals into the website. So we're building relevancy for that. But a lot of our blog content and our individual landing pages we're pursuing in the beginning to get a high ranking for are going to be a little bit lower volume, but lower competition with a higher probability of winning. So we can get you into that first page because 98% of people are not going to go past the first page of Google search results. So we want you to win on smaller terms, build that relevancy, build a legacy with Google of people having a positive converting experience on your site. And then we can go after bigger and bigger keywords because you have the breadth of content, the breadth of sessions that Google sees people convert on your site and have a positive experience.
So what's the timeline on something like that, Britt? Like, I mean, to me, in my, caveman knowledge of doing this myself, how long would it take to do that? Like, as far as timing?
For like somebody who has maybe like, let's call it a clean slate of content on their site, haven't really done a whole lot. The phrase "do that," I guess.
I speak in absolutes.
Yeah. There's a lot of pieces there. I would say people can expect to start seeing results, within a few months. Our ultimate goal, especially in the beginning for somebody, is going to be to balance out the services so that we are pulling in reservations and return and profit to kind of prop up the other service, being SEO in this case, because it does take a little time. The important thing to keep in mind is that, let's say it takes 3 months, 6 months to really start to take hold and we get into some of those bigger terms where we're starting to rank and drive the traffic. A year or two out, if you make that investment while getting a positive return and not losing money on it, a year or two out, the cost of acquisition on those organic bookings starts to dwindle in comparison to paid, in comparison to ads in social. It can be one of your highest returning as you build that legacy. And so, if you look at leaders in your destination, what you may see is like this unattainable thing and this horse that's way out in front of you. But what you're really looking at is a projection of what your business could be a couple years from now if you do the work in the short term to build it. So to summarize that answer and actually answer your question, I would say, give it a few months, let us get some content on your site. You're going to start to increase your traffic. You're going to start to develop bookings. Really at 6 months and a year is where we can see a lot more consistent return on it month over month. And, sort of that hockey sticking start to happen. But you have to look at it big picture. If you're in this business to stay in this business, a couple of years from now, your direct bookings, your scale, your dominance in your market could be markedly different than it is right now if you do the short-term work while also not being deceived and losing money on it.
Right. So I asked that question very specifically, right? Because a lot of folks, a certain person who should be listening to this podcast probably isn't, but it's one of those where, the concept of marketing seems to be lost, I think, a little bit when we talk about web, right? Everybody, because what people see, right? Like the industry itself is a little bit, it's unique. I'll put it that way. It's unique. Maybe it's in some other kind of real retail type situations where all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm not getting sales. I need my revenue manager to go and tweak my prices. And all of a sudden, boom, I'm starting to get bookings, right? So they have this like immediate, like I can see right now, this ability within the OTAs to do a couple tweaks on dials. And now I can I can actually engage further, right? Now that, of course, that's all in a very constrained space, because if, Verbo keeps doing what it's doing, which is lose market share, especially in
Right.
our market, I mean, they are dropping like a stone. So it's like, great, I can keep getting more bookings, but it's less and less and less and less.
Diminishing return. Yeah.
Right. It's a diminishing return, right? So, the thing is, like, what the message, I think, for folks, if you're a property manager, you're just starting out, understand that the energy and the juice that you put into marketing will be worth the squeeze. You just have to have, it's not necessarily faith. You just got to have patience and understanding, and it's funny. Haley Marie, I don't know if you've met Haley. She does, well, she's 22 years old. She was on my Young Guns podcast. I'm pretty sure you've met her, Britt. She's
I know
down
of
in
Haley. I've
Florida.
seen her in passing, but never
Yes.
really gotten a chance to sit down and talk to her.
Yeah, unbelievable young lady. Like, she's just, it is funny, right? Because we always, when you're old like me, like my generation has a tendency to make flippant comments about the FaceTime and the screen time that the younger generations are using. And it's funny because I look at what Haley's doing, and she has built herself this little empire because of marketing. She started off slow. She's 22 years old, man, and she's like, I think last time I talked to her, she was pulling down 3.5 million gross. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Wow.
which is impressive because it's all arbitrage. They're not even owned. It's all arbitrage that she's built. So it's one of those where I look at it and I say, how did this upstart, young person really take off? And a lot of it is because she has faith that when she posts a regular basis, she gets out there, she goes to conferences, she presents, she comes to VRNation constantly. She's a future board member. I'm confident in that. And it's one of those where I look at it and I, yeah, right. But it's one of those where you look at it and you go, it's doable. You just got to have patience. And I think that's kind of the key. That maybe property managers, we don't have a choice because everything is so fast, so real time, right? Guest has a complaint, you need to handle it. Something happens, you got to be there, you got to handle it, you got to be there. It's always very knee jerk and fast reacting. So marketing is that slower hockey stick growth, like you're talking about. But stay the course, folks. And again, Britt had made the comment too. It's like you can learn it yourself. I mean, if you like it, do it. Please go for it. But if you're like, I don't really like doing this, and I have to learn it anyway, it's painful.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
I
give
mean, do
Britt a
you want to
call.
be a great
Absolutely.
marketer or do you want to be a great property manager? You can be both. Certainly, I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who are successful, but if you're really successful in property management, it's probably because of the level of hospitality and the care and the relationships you put in. Spend your time doing that. The return is much higher. Let people who go to bed thinking about this day in and day out go to market and win for you. I want to make one really, really quick clerical comment here. Well, actually, two. One's in the
Yeah,
back of my
go
head.
for it.
One being marketing does take a little time to hockey stick, especially specifically on SEO. It's a compounding effect, but I do not want to misspeak and give the impression that we cannot go drive results in month one. It's just in other services. It's in page search. It's in conversion tools like booking recovery, where 70% of people abandon checkout. So hit them with a series of emails if they put their email address in, which they do. There's plenty that you can do short term that can fund the long term efforts. So don't feel like you have to have 3 months of additional revenue set aside to be able to get into marketing. Anyone can do it, and we can be helpful at any budget.
Absolutely. Here's a question for you, Brett. So if
Yeah.
I have a different provider because I kind of have to. How does Realtek come in? Do you guys take over my existing site, or how would that work?
For website clients, we're always going to build a new website. We offer two solutions there. We can build fully custom websites, whatever booking rules you need, fully custom design, custom aesthetics, whatever you want there. We also offer something called Realtek Direct, which is technically a template site, but we really look at it more as a SaaS product, and that you're going to get all of the best features and functionality of our standard package that we build for people. And then on a monthly basis, if we release something new, you're going to get it automatically. It's going to go with your nightly update. You're going to get it the only restrictions are going to be a little bit of limitations on custom design, and then really, really custom booking rules can't be a part of the site. But we add more and more stuff in all the time to make it easier. But we're going to build our own sites because ultimately that's how we can control security. That's how we can control the performance of the site. We're not just going to host another website because you're not going to get a return out of the money we want to charge to do that. We're going to build you the best website in the industry. But especially for marketing clients, a huge benefit of Realtek is that we all work out of one office together. So if there's a technical issue that a marketing manager is encountering or that a client has that's preventing them from being effective with a campaign they're running, instead of sending a ticket to someone halfway across the world or waiting a few days, we're going to walk downstairs, we're going to work with one of our support developers to get it fixed, get it added, get it adjusted, whatever needs to be done. So it is important to us to have the website, I guess would be a summary answer there, but there's a lot of
right, because you would control it. But it's like some of us don't. Actually, maybe that's a question. Maybe that's an assumption I'm making. Is depending upon the property management system, are you constrained, or because I think a lot of folks, and so for example, Cabino's on Streamline, and a lot of folks think that BizCore, which is a Streamline subsidiary.
Yep.
Can we have a website with Streamline without BizCore?
You most certainly can. We have 16 property management software integrations, all of the leading providers, and growing that list all the time as more emerge that have clientele that want to invest in direct bookings and want to do things the right way. And we can do marketing for non-website clients as well. So I want to clarify that. But the idea of a consolidator makes sense from a financial and sales standpoint. It doesn't always make sense for the property manager. For some people, it is better to just have one point of contact for everything you do. I think for a lot of people, it makes sense to look at different providers, find out who's going to be aligned with their values, whose product really serves their ultimate goals, and what is that ratio of brand new shiny things and things that hold strong with people that you can get on the phone when you need them. Relationships or how this business was built. So we operate in a free market. We encourage other people to operate in a free market, and Inhabit has competitors to us, like BizCore. We're trying to beat them on there, but we also endorse Streamline as a property management software, just like we do Guesty, Track, Barefoot, Escapia, and several others.
Right. No, that makes sense. Again, a lot of times I ask the dumb question because, one, it's my dumb question, but two, a lot of other folks out there aren't really sure, right? Nobody really knows that. Hey, I'll back it down to a more of a marketing question. So, when I think of like the low-hanging fruit marketing tactic, like what do you see almost every vacation rental manager not doing that could be like the low-hanging fruit that could be taken advantage of?
Man, there's a lot of those. I would say one that I'm going to go with email because I have so many conversations with people who could be doing email and aren't. Doing email marketing can be productive and create return in dollar and in loyalty at one property or at 10,000 properties. There are companies like, in this case, Realtek, who have email service platforms, our Realtek Connect, where it's just based off your contact list size and it's extremely affordable. So you can go and you can get these high-end tools and send as much or as little as you need to for that price. I would say, if you think about email, it's the number one most qualified audience you're going to encounter. You put a newsletter sign-up form on your website, you take people's email addresses when they book with you, and then you can market exclusively to people who have stayed in you or have expressed specifically that they are interested in staying with you. What better market exists out there? And a lot of people don't do it. So I would say email for sure.
Yeah, I think when I run across it, I think people don't do it right. Like that was one of the big learning things for me, was how to use it correctly. And, I worked with a couple different marketers and they would throw together emails and you would head scratch and be like, man, this really looks like not that great of an email, but what am I going to do? Argue with you? That's what I'm paying you for. But right. And then the messaging and then the audience is critical. I'll give a case in point for some folks that are listening. Cabino had an email list of 17,000 people. 17,000 people. But when I look at that, right, well, it's huge. You're like, wow, that's huge. But when I look at how many people have not opened an email from us, you're going, wow, that's a really big number. How many people never open an email, even though they never unsubscribed, whether it falls into spam buckets or whatever the case might be. And when I said, you know what, I'm just going to start labeling anybody that hasn't actually opened an email for me in the last, 2 years, I'm just going to tag them in MailChimp and say, okay, I'm not going to send them this next thing. I focused the energy down to maybe a third of that list. And my open rates went from, 10% to 60%. My click rates went from like 0.01% to 5%. And it's because of the quality of the audience, I just kind of like, maybe I ought to do this. I don't know, like, duh. Right. But it makes sense because it's like, and that's where I think having somebody who's skilled like you to go, no, Jamie, you're kind of fishing in the dark on the wrong side of the pier. You could go over here, use this message. You'll get more interest that way. I think that's huge. That's absolutely.
Yeah. I know I tend to ramble here, but I want to add a couple notes on this because I think these are really, really important. And not only do I see a lot of people who don't invest in email when they could be investing in email, I think a lot of people out there probably believe that to do traditional email marketing, you have to have a really big list, and that what you do is you blast out your properties and dates, on a monthly basis if you're following this sort of default system, this template. But there's so many ways as the technology that's vacation rental specific starts to expand, different companies for email list acquisition, our Connect product allowing you to do more segmented email campaigns. There's a couple other companies out there who have pretty good products as well, but there's a lot of different ways you can use it. So you can do a monthly campaign and hit your whole audience, or hit a portion of your audience based off their interests, based off their past booking history. Or you can build automations out of your email platform. So when they sign up for the newsletter, it fires them an email right away and says, hey, thank you so much for joining our community. Here's some interesting area information. Here's the best places people like to go. Keep an eye out for specials upcoming. You can do automations on your contact form. You can do automations on your property inquiry forms. You can do automations post-stay. If that's all you want to do, you can set that up with an expert like us or in our platform. Somebody leaves, it sends them 3 emails over 6 months, thanking them, trying to get reviews, and then 6 months out, trying to remind them to come book with you again. So it can be productive, even if it's not something that you want to manage on an ongoing basis or have a really large audience for.
Interesting. Yeah, I think one problem I run into with that is that half of our correspondence goes out via Streamline, and the marketing stuff goes out via MailChimp. So trying to tie a lot of that stuff together is a unique challenge for sure. But hey, man, I've kept you a long time, and I got one last question. I promise you, one last question. I'll let you get back to work.
No, I'd love to answer.
Okay, great. Where can our listeners go to learn more about Realtek and get a hold of you? Please share the information, how folks can reach out, and then we will sing praises out to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone can find us at our website, realtekvr.com. All of our information, certainly a contact form are there. If anyone would like to reach out to me personally, Britt, B-R-I-T-T, at realtekvr.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you and answer your questions and put you in contact with the right teams to go a little more in depth. We'll be doing some webinars throughout the year, so keep an eye on our LinkedIn. We'll be announcing those and sharing tidbits information. And then, at the very beginning of the conversation, I talked about the importance of AI chat and natural language search and how that's incorporated into the site. We're going to be launching ours here really, really shortly, and it's going to be an awesome product, so keep an eye out for that.
Excellent, man. Hey, I really appreciate you joining me today. Again, I've so much information. I really appreciate it. Folks, please like, follow, subscribe, reach out to us, send notes and comments, whatever it is. Please reach out. Please reach out to Britt if you have questions about your website. I guarantee you he will teach you a lot more than you think you know, and it will all be good for your business. So thanks again, everybody. I appreciate you joining VRNation Station. Britt, thank you. And we will talk to you again soon, man. Yeah, not a problem. Awesome. Glad. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Later, man.
Welcome y'all to the VRNation station. We're diving deep into vacation rental sensations. From management tips to the latest creation, join us each week for some sparkle and conversation. VRNation Station, tune in and feel the thrill. We're talking